Welcome to the Recovery 2.0 online conference. I am your host, Tommy Rosen, and I am pretty amped up to be speaking with Krishna Kaur. Krishna is a dynamic, heart-centered yoga teacher who began studying with Yogi Bhajan in 1970 and has passionately taught the art and science of Kundalini Yoga and self-awareness for 40 years. A spiritual activist, she brings a wealth of knowledge and experience from her teaching in Africa, Mexico, and inner cities throughout the United States. Krishna lives her teachings, rising daily at 4 a.m. for her personal practice. People love Krishna's workshops because they are fun, invigorating, and very, very uplifting. Krishna, I want to thank you so much for your time and sharing your wisdom and experience with us here at the Recovery 2.0 community.
Well, it's a pleasure, Tommy. It's a pleasure to be with you and your great work and your dedication and your practice. You know, it's exciting to see how things are growing because you have dedicated your life to uplifting others. So to be with you, it's a real treat.
Thank you. I can assure you the feeling's mutual, Krishna. So, when I get the chance to talk to you, I always want to hear about your experience coming into Kundalini Yoga, coming into that period of awakening in your life. And if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit about what that awakening was for you at that time. I know people would love to hear it.
Well, Tommy, it's been almost 50 years, actually, not 40 anymore.
Right.
And it seems like time has gone by so fast that it just almost feels like yesterday. And yet it seems like that beginning was so special and so different. You know, I couldn't have planned it. I didn't think about it. I wasn't searching for yoga at all. But I was searching to try to understand my purpose in life. I needed to understand why I was born. I needed to understand how I was to worship God. I needed to understand why I was Black and how I was supposed to serve in this body of being Black, how I was supposed to uplift my people in some way. And I knew that I had to do that. I just knew something that I had to do that for some reason. And I had no idea where that thought came from because I thought I would spend my whole life in the theater, dancing on the stage, singing, acting. That was my life. And I never dreamed I would do anything other than that. In fact, when I visited Russia and visited one of the theaters, Pushkin's theater, who was a Black Russian, it was a small theater, and they said that whenever the actors passed on, they would chip a little bit of the stage off and bury it with them. And I said, that's what I want to have happen to me. I want some of that stage to go with me, you know?
Yeah.
But it turned out that it was a different stage. It was a stage that Shakespeare talked about. When he said the whole world is a stage. And all the men and women are really players, and each one plays many roles in their lives. And so when it came around for me to honor that spiritual part of me, that part that held itself in this practice of Kundalini Yoga, I was open and receptive.
And I imagine that openness and receptivity, it was pushed along by meeting a very powerful teacher. And can you talk about that moment? Or when you felt or knew, like, okay, I guess I'm going in this other direction now.
Well, it's interesting because I did meet Yogi Bhajan about 1.5 years after he had arrived in the United States. And I didn't meet him right away. I met Kundalini Yoga right away. And when I met Kundalini Yoga and at the University of Boulder in Colorado, I knew then, the minute I'd done just a few movements and had sung The Long Time Sun, that something that touched my heart so deeply, I just couldn't stop crying, you know. I had been searching and searching for maybe 4 years, trekking through Europe, hitchhiking through Europe, trekking through Africa, asking the same questions that I had spoken about earlier. And when I got to that class, it's like everything seemed to come together. It's like it kind of like, it almost said, this is what you've been looking for in some degree. But I didn't know that it was to this degree. You know, the next step for me, that it was time, and it was, I was ready for it, and it answered those kinds of questions. It took about a couple of months after that I actually met Yogi Bhajan. And when I met him, I was thinking about finding something easier than Kundalini Yoga to do. Because it was literally kicking my behind. And he spotted that in me, because when he saw me, he just yelled and asked me, he said, if you want something easy, go someplace else, you know, because if you come with me, you're going to have to work.
Did he say that?
He did say that. He did say that. He yelled and said, what do you want from me, you know?
Yes.
My neck went up, and I thought to myself, who is it? He don't know me. Why is he saying like that? You don't know me, you know? But then I said, but I was thinking about doing something easier, you know, like hatha or something.
Right.
And that kind of like showed me that he was authentic, he was real, he was straight. And I just knew that whatever I was to follow, find, or connect, it had to be real, had to be authentic, it had to be really straight. I was not up to being pampered or or sold in some sweet way, you know. Don't give me all that. I want to know what it is, what it's not, who I am, who I'm not, what I should do, what I should not do, and that's it. Just simple and straight. And all the time that I lived with him, which was for about 9 years, and even after that, when I served on his staff and worked for him in so many different ways, he always gave it to me straight. I used to smile and say, he doesn't talk to me in sentences or paragraphs like he talked to the rest of the staff. He talked to me in headlines. Krishna, da-da-da-da, bam. I said, okay, when I'm off, I'm doing it. and I respected that. I needed that. I needed him to come clean and to not soften things for me, which he didn't. I needed him to just deal with me straight. And I could go off in my own time and space and wallow in whatever I had to wallow in, struggle with whatever I had to struggle, and just find a way to just understand it. Because initially he would say things that I didn't understand at all. But I never asked him a question. I never said, what do you mean? Or what is it supposed to do? Or why should I do this? Blah, blah, blah. I never asked one question. He said, da-da-da-da. I said, Satnam. And I was off. It may have taken me months, years before I maybe figured it out. But I believed so much that because he said it to me, that I had the capacity to understand it and to figure it out. And I stayed with that. And I just did that. That was I never thought of it this way, but I can say now, looking back, that it was probably my way of honoring the relationship, or way I understood the relationship. I understood the relationship. He said, I did. Bam, finished.
Well, you used the word purpose a little while back, and it seems to me that you know, we're talking right now to many of the people who are watching this are people who have had direct contact with addiction of some form or another, and it seems to me like that group of people, myself included, really all we ever wanted was a clear sense of purpose. And that one of the most painful things, certainly the hardest days in my life, were the days where I've woken up, whether I was in active drug addiction or even sober, and I woke up and I didn't have a sense of why I'm here. And it sounds like if one opens oneself up to a teacher or a teaching, one might just, you know, really find that sense of purpose, but it doesn't necessarily look like what you thought it was going to look like. Does that make sense?
Right. That's right. I never dreamed that this would be what I would be doing for the rest of my life. But when it happened, it made sense. And I think you're right, Tommy. It was because there was a system, a process that I followed with tremendous commitment, dedication, and passion that gave me the clarity and cleaned out enough of the resistance so that I could hear clearly when the universe spoke to me and said, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Do this now, do this next. I realized that there are a lot of things, and I think about addiction. I thought about it when I was coming to be with you. We're all addicted to something. It may not be substance. Maybe we're addicted to a certain kind of attitude or approach to life or a way of seeing ourselves. We're addicted to something. We are locked into something that defined us at some point or that helped us to feel okay about ourselves at some point. And we realized at some point that whatever that was that served, comforted, held, gave us strength, gave us some meaning of some level, at some point, those things became like shackles, like vices around us, you know? Yogi Bhajan said, you're born innocent, and then you begin to protect yourself. So these layers of protection we put around ourselves that helped us get through the night, choking out the day. And when you start to see that, when you realize that that's getting in your way, then somehow it helps to make a decision that I want to do something different, you know?
It seems one of the blessings, as you've described your relationship with Yogi Bhajan, was a directive came, and you had a willingness to hear the directive. But at the same time, you talked about, I had all the time and space I needed to go out and sort of, experience my challenge, my misery, my beingness. It sounds like he never forced you to do anything, really.
Never.
But it was always just, this would be really good for you if you did this. But now you've got like time and space where you go out and it's like either you're applying that or you're not applying that. Is that how it's gone in your last 50 years?
Absolutely. And I think it's always been that way. And I think that when a teacher comes to you, that's what a teacher does. A teacher doesn't give you advice. A teacher doesn't give you direction. The teacher doesn't tell you what to do, but rather the teacher gives you options because the teacher respects your inner intelligence, your spiritual awakenedness, which is already there. Otherwise you wouldn't be with that teacher. The fact that you know so much, you understand so much already, but somehow what you know and understand is just kind of not developed. It's been dwarfed or it's been subdued in some way that you haven't recognized it before or haven't realized that was what that was, I didn't know that voice was the voice I should really be listening to. I thought it was something else. And when the teacher kept pointing you in that direction or giving you the opportunity to point yourself in that direction, that's a teacher, and it could be anywhere and it could be multiple and it could be a flower. I learned so much from a tree. It's at the base of great olive trees that were hundreds of years old. And I watered their roots with my tears, Tommy. And then afterwards I sit there and say, okay, all right, I understand. And I could get them walk away, because I listened. And that's what's so exciting about being on this path of spiritual development is that you realize, your teacher can come in on the wings of the wind. It could be the way a leaf rustles in the background that triggers something in you because the vibration that you're exuding, which is a longing, it's a longing. A longing is, and I'm just really understanding longing. He talked about it. He said, to long is to belong. He said, to long is to belong. And I'm understanding longing. Longing is more than wanting. It's higher than wishing. It's bigger than an affirmation. It's something that the heart and the soul just pours out some very deep but very sensitive, reaching out to the universe, like a child calling to his mother saying, hey, I'm here, I need you right now, It's that longing that I think we have, but we have to still the resistance, the attitude, the reactions, and the dislikes. I don't like this. I don't like that. I like this like that.
Well, that longing is, again, I just feel it's the perfect word for what we've all been looking for. And some of us, we get we get on that wrong train, and we're looking for to fulfill that longing through drugs and alcohol, or sex, or relationships, or money stuff, or drama, or whatever the thing is. But then we find, ultimately you reach this bottom, this place of, wow, I've been doing this so long, and it has not netted the results I had hoped for. And I can't go on like this anymore, and I don't know what to do. And then you get inevitably, if you really ask for help, if you really, really ask for help, you'll find it. I believe that. And on your path, you were given a sort of a set of tools, a pretty profound set of tools, I would say, for how to not just, well, first of all, very importantly, to create within you, within an individual, a transformation, a becoming, a fulfillment, if you will, or at least moving on a road towards a fulfillment. So on the one hand, this profound set of tools could help catalyze and move along this transformation. But also, it was an answer to just getting through any of the rigors of any given day. Yeah. At the same time, like, this is a way you can get through. Not only will you be learning and growing, but you could get through. You could use this set of tools. And of course, I'm talking about the body of teachings left by Yogi Bhajan that we refer to as Kundalini Yoga. Can you speak to those tools? Obviously we could speak for 3 weeks about this, but can you speak a little bit and share, like, what have been some of the most powerful tools in your life that you've turned to in times of need? Yes, and also wanting to further your own transformation.
Yes, that's a nice, big, juicy question. When you ask it, I think about the young people that I work with, because they also have addictive problems, And I also think about just a few of the things Yogi Bhajan said to me, and then I think he said 1,000 times. It had to be about just knowing who you are as a foundation. Your relationship with the divine is so important to understand. What is that relationship? What can help you find that relationship is stilling the mind. The mind that jumps around, the mind that has all the resistances, is finding a way to still the mind. And for me, that has a lot to do with being able to lengthen and deepen the breath. Because the breath controls the mind, the breath controls emotions. When you can conquer your breath, you can conquer your world. Because everything that you do good is because of the mind. Everything that you do not good, the mind is the base of that. So if you can control the mind, you can control your world. And by controlling the mind, you use the breath. And it's interesting because it's the thing that we do all day long and all night long, is breathe. We never think about it as a tool for transformation. The fact that you can adjust the frequency of your nervous system by changing the rhythm of your breath, the pattern of your breath, the style of your breath, whether you're breathing through one nostril or the other, whether you're breathing in segments or whole breaths, or if you're breathing rapidly in breath of fire. All of these tools are so powerful, but it all has to do with the breath. I say that's one of the most profound things that I've discovered. The other thing is that all the emotions and all the trauma that we experience in our lives, they find a home in the body. They land somewhere in the body. They land in the throat. The thyroid and parathyroid glands are affected by continually experiencing levels of fear, doubt, hesitation, self-denial, all those things. It sort of like chokes off the thyroid and parathyroid glands. You're unable to speak your truth. you can't speak your truth because that chakra there, that part of your body is just constricted and tightened.
Mm.
You look at the way in which anger, frustration, all these things affect the adrenals and the kidneys, and so doing yoga, doing postures, doing movement, and all these things really help the body to loosen up and help it to release and let go of the things that it is holding. So breath, body, critical. Keeping the body moving, flexible, strong, willing. Even if it's not perfect, it doesn't give up on itself. It accepts what is, accepting what is, accepting the capacity, knowing that at some point that will shift and that will grow. And I'll go back to the mind again. When the body is still, when the breath is controlled, then the mind can become still. And until the mind is still, it cannot see clearly what is true and what is not true. That's so cool. What is true, what is not true. Yogi Bhajan says in 9 seconds, we have the capacity of knowing in 9 seconds what is true for us and what is not true, what is real, what is not real. So what gets in the way? Habit, resistance, opinion, fantasy. What? All of these things. We become a sponge for the things that we hear, that we're told, and that we're accustomed. And that sponge is kind of like the subconscious, because it's all held right in the subconscious. And until that comes up and we clear it, we're not going to be able to find that level of stillness that will allow us to know in 9 seconds what's true, what is not true. That's so cool.
It is so cool. I just, so many people still can't make the connection between the idea that an emotional energy could be stuck in the tissues of the body, and that if you physically move the body, it could help your emotional situation. It's just it's not an intuitive idea. People I think doubt that. If we could really get people to understand this, I think we'd have a lot more yoga practitioners much more quickly.
And I think that also, you're absolutely right about that. But I think when people have gone for a walk, they come back and say, oh, I feel much better. Or they've done a little bit of a running. Oh, I feel so much better. I've gone to the gym for a little while. Oh, I feel so much better. So even though they have that experience of that immediately feeling better, they're not always connecting it to the essence of what else is being uplifted or cleared by them feeling better. So yeah, I think, and in our culture, we don't support that much. We don't really talk about it. We don't really relate to it as much. Well, we're doing better about it now, of course, because there's a lot of yoga around, a lot of activity around. But previously, it wasn't something that was drawn in. It was more of a mental process, a talking therapy that was supposed to help us. Not really recognizing, like you said, how strong and how much the body holds the memory.
So in terms of being able to shift something like that, being able to move energy, it's, in my experience, I'll give you an example from my experience with one aspect of the 12 steps, which is this process of inventory. It's really the 4th step. And in that process, you look at your life, you look at your resentments, and you tell, in a sense, you tell the story of your life as seen through your resentments. Where have I held on to something negative? Where have I held a grudge, or held a negativity, or held a judgment? And that way we get to look at our own behavior, and we get to try to work that out from this side of the street. It's a very powerful process. And I've noticed that once that process is over, you have dropped a lot, and you have released a lot, and you've learned a lot. But it's not as if that process is over now, and you're just done, and you're cured, and there's nothing more to work on, and there never will be again. With yoga, I think that just like with any form of recovery or any form of approach, it takes a one day at a time approach. And I think there's a steadiness that must take place that's very difficult for human beings. in order to move and grow and continue, and not to go down that road of thinking, oh, well, I did this practice today. I guess I'll never have to really do that again, you know? So I guess what I'm getting to is a discussion of sadhana and morning practice, daily spiritual practice, daily yoga. And I know that's a very important part of what Yogi Bhajan left and taught. And I know it's a huge, huge part of your life. So could we talk about that continuation, that steadiness over time as a tool? How do we stay in it day in, day out?
Oh, I love this. I want to just say one thing about the notion of forgiveness that you brought about, because I've done a lot of studying on forgiveness, and many lectures and workshops I've done on forgiveness. And one of the things that I think is important for us all to realize that is forgiveness is not condoning the situation. It's just a way of letting it go. You know? So when things you talked about, it sounds like you were getting the idea of, yes, you explore, you look at it, but then you just decide, okay, now I can let it go. I don't have to condone it or make it okay. It doesn't have to ever be okay. It always just be the mess that it was.
Yes.
It's that I have decided that I recognize it, I acknowledge it, I admit to it, and now I'm going to let it go. And Yogi Bhajan said, as far as sadhana is concerned, the daily practice is that when you do your daily practice, you can never be manipulated by your own thoughts, by things that come along, situations that manipulate you from being you, manipulate the things in you, your emotions and your feelings, whatever that is. It could be a person, it could be a situation, it could be your own thought. It doesn't matter. But by practicing sadhana daily, it prevents you from being manipulated. I like that. The other thing is that I see it's like brushing your teeth every day. You know, yeah, I brushed them yesterday, but, you know, if I don't brush them today, I'm going to have a mouthful of green stuff. You know, at some point, you got to realize that this is a matter of hygiene. But the hygiene is not just your physical hygiene, like taking a bath every day, putting on clean underwear, brushing your teeth, combing your, all these things are things we do to take care of the outside of our bodies. And they're very important for health and hygiene. But also there's another hygiene, the hygiene of the mind, the hygiene of the spirit, the hygiene of the thinking, the hygiene of the subconscious. This also deserves to be dealt with on a daily basis so that it can also be clean. It can also be refreshed. It can also be aligned with who you really are. Because these are all the things that we took on, you know, growing up. We learned this stuff from home, from the community, from the hood, from the politics, from the emotions, from the church, whatever. We learned these things, and for a while they were okay. But then we outgrew them, except that we're stuck in this cocoon of the stuff that we built to get us through the night. So in sadhana, and again, like you said earlier, it doesn't all happen at once. In fact, it may not even happen in this lifetime. But who cares? As long as you're in the process of peeling off the layers one at a time, this and then that in itself, to me, is great. I can breathe a little bit deeper. I can sit a little bit stiller in my meditation. I can be a little bit more open, a little less reactive to the things that I encounter, a little less judgmental, the people who are being stupid around me. You know, I could be a little less this, a little more that. And all of that is kind of like nice. It's kind of how we grow anyway, you know. We didn't grow from 7 to 12 in one day, you know. We don't gain inches in 1 week. It takes a couple of weeks of eating wrong to get the fat off. So nothing happens like that. Everything has this period of growing. Plants do, children do, we all do. So the process of kind of being who you are, allowing that powerful, beautiful person inside of you to come out. Wow. Every little spark of that is so precious and should be celebrated and should be enjoyed, appreciated, loved, hugged, you know, and given thanks for it. Thank you, you know, for this little opening of an awareness that I have. And through doing your sadhana every single day, every day, even if there are some days you don't get all of it in there, you're doing something. You're going for the whole kit and caboodle as much as you can, because that's going to give you the biggest adjustment, the biggest change, the biggest relationship with yourself. But even if you can't get to all of it, do something. Treat yourself to something. Yourself is looking for you to treat them to something. So treat yourself to something. It's you. It's you. As I said, Krishna, this is for you. This is for you, Krishna. You better take care of you, because no one's going to take care of you like you. So take care of you. How do I do that? I do that by getting up, giving myself something every morning that says, yes, sister, you can do this. You can do this, sister. You can do this.
Your sadhana includes some physical kriya.
Oh, yeah.
Meditation.
Yeah.
And chanting, singing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And prayer. I do my Japji prayer first thing in the morning, which has so many benefits in it. Each party has a way of taking care of something in me, whether I need it right then or that day or not, is not important. It's going to take care of something in me. Just reading that, I call it epic mantra. Just reading that every day. That epic mantra takes between 10 and 15, 20 minutes to do it. I watch my mind, because my mind is kind of like, it wants to cheat every now and then. So I condition myself to do a really tough kriya one day and a kind of easy one the next. Every other day I give myself a really hard butt-kicking kriya exercise set. One that I don't like, one that really hurts and it doesn't feel good, it doesn't make me feel, I do that. I say I'm committed to doing one every other day. You know what I'm saying? Because if I don't make that commitment, I'm able to cheat myself and just do the easy step. Well, I'm going to just meditate today. Oh, well, I'll just do this today. Well, but I know my body is not going to be happy if I do that. It's not going to be happy. And we got to go through this life together. We might as well go through having a nice relationship with each other.
No doubt.
I'm learning my body.
No doubt. Wow.
And it does change the day. The day definitely shows how much I've done in the morning. I try to do everything every day.
Yes. When you instruct, and I've been in many of your classes now, and have loved being in your classes. I have truly loved it as much as I might whine and complain to you at points. But I find that you teach very, very powerful classes and difficult. And I mean that sincerely. Just you teach a difficult class physically. You ask a lot of your students, and it's obvious why you would do that. But I wanted just to get your perspective when you're looking out from the teacher's bench and you're seeing sort of what's going on. What are you thinking? Like, what do you want to bring out of somebody through your teaching? And when you decide what someone can or cannot do, what's behind that kind of thought process?
I guess it's more you can do this, and I'm going to prove to you that you can do it. I'm going to push you until you discover, I can do this. Even if you go yelling and screaming, I don't really care. At least you know you can. And if you do it consistently, you'll be able to do it in a time when you stop yelling and screaming. But also, I realize that a lot of people are not getting that in their yoga classes. They're getting things that are going to invite them to come back. I don't care if you come back or not. You come back if you want to, but if you don't, it's okay with me, But I also that's where I fell in love with Yogi Bhajan even deeper. When he gave me the kriyas that really kicked my behind, I just said, oh my God, this brother, he's working on my nerves, and he really wants something out of me that I didn't even know I had. He's pushing me to discover things that I didn't even know existed in me. And I loved him for that, Otherwise, I could really stay in that comfort zone, just, And he never really catered to our comfort zone. And to me, that was respecting my capacity. I'm bigger and have greater capacity than I may show you every day. And I believe we find a place where we can be comfortable, where we can be okay, where we can feel good about ourselves. And we want to kind of hover there. I don't want to hover there. And I want to give everybody what he gave me. Yeah, but no, I do think that we have more capacity than we think. And I'd like to see us have a chance to really stretch that. Just know that there's nothing that comes to me that I cannot do. Nothing. Nothing. Which means that everything that comes to me is a gift. And if I truly believe in what Yogi Bhajan said, if you can't see God in all, then you can't see God at all. Which means when I get a challenge, when I get a problem that comes to me, I have to look at it and say, okay, well, what do you want? Why are you here? What have I missed? What have I not discovered? I have not clarified. I have not fixed in myself yet. That brings you still in my face again. Oh, problem, G.
Mm.
And I hold that seriously, and I have to laugh, and I have to accept it, and I just embrace it and try to figure out what I'm supposed to do with it. How is it here to help me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I like it when people complain about the creator. They say, "Oh, that was so hard." I said, "When you were so tough because you did every bit of it."
Yeah. Well, I will say that you are incredibly inspiring. You really do get people through things that I for me, I'll speak personally. I've done things with you that I didn't know I could do physically.
I get it. Cool.
Yeah. There's a group of people within the group of people that we're talking to right now. And this is people who are coming from maybe a more severe form of trauma. It could be a physical trauma, a sexual trauma, an emotional trauma, but something a little bit more serious than most people experience. Maybe some veterans who've been in war situations, serious trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And often, working with that population of people, it isn't always advised to push in certain kinds of ways,
Mm-hmm.
because it might be more triggering to their trauma than it is helpful for them to move forward out of it. Mm-hmm. Could you speak a little bit to that sensitivity?
I think that's real, Tommy. And as a teacher, you have to be wise about that and understand who is in the audience with you.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm working with a large group of people, like at Solstice or Satnam Fest, they're an average group, and I'm giving them the average whatever. And I'm trusting them to make their own decisions about what they're doing, what they're not doing. And so I don't push people beyond where I see them holding back. Mm-hmm. There's some things that are grounding that a person needs to feel grounded about. And that's important, that we give them more standing postures, more things that will help them to be grounded in their life and help them through that part of it. Other things they need to have more breath, expanding the breath capacity, and certain twisting things will help them to open up. There are lots of things that the body can do to work with specific traumas. And for those people, I suggest that they try to get a class that's really specifically for them and their issues, because general classes may not always work for them. But if they know what they're dealing with and they have a chance to talk with a teacher, the teacher can also help them understand, okay, when we do this in the class, you do it this way, or don't push this past your comfort zone on this. Mm-hmm. And I say that because that's a very sensitive period in our lives when we have severe trauma. And it's also something that is a great invitation for us to be able to learn more about who we are and be willing to take the time and the care to nurture that to a place of healing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Krishna, I also want to get your thoughts about the power of community, and particularly a community around practices. Because, of course, as we're talking about the challenge of this practice or that practice, and we're talking about how slippery the mind can be, it's not a foregone conclusion that we're just going to continue this. Oh, we had a good experience. Now we're just going to do this every day and we're fine. We'll just be on our little way. I think we need human beings. And I want to understand your perspective on community as a teacher, but also as a participant in a community around practices.
We are social beings. We need each other. We rely on each other. That vibration, that village, that family energy is so nurturing sometimes. And even though it can be very troubling, we can be living in a very troubled family or in a very troubled community. But somehow the closeness of people is so important, like-minded people. So the more we can gather, even if it's just once or twice a year, to get to some of these events that allow us to just rub up against each other, it is so invigorating. It's also a tourism that Yogi Bhajan brought to us in terms of our own personal development. Because there is individual consciousness or growth, which means as an individual, I'm doing what I'm doing. As you said, I'm working on this, I'm keeping up with it. group consciousness, which is doing it in a group, because the group magnifies the impact that it has on you. You can do it alone, but when you do the same thing with a number of people, it multiplies exponentially the impact of that on your psyche, on your aura, and on your experience, and on your ability to heal and let go of whatever it is you're letting go of. Mm. And that's a part that cannot be missed if we want to reach universal consciousness. Mm. We can't go from individual consciousness to universal consciousness. We've got to pass through that challenging space of the group, you know. Mm. And sometimes these groups are very annoying, and you don't really like everybody in them, you know. But it doesn't matter. That's also a part of our ability to just back up in our psyche and just see what's really there, what they see beyond the things that are annoying, because inside each person there's something so beautiful, so powerful, and so beautiful, and so nurturing. So we need to be able to see through that and see who they really are. And that's the part that will help us grow more than anything else. Not just dealing with your own stuff, but your relationship to other people's stuff. You know?
Absolutely. It's such an important thing you just said, especially as applied to the 12-step world, because there's a lot of resistance to people to go into 12-step programs. And inevitably many people have cited to me, you know, I don't like the meetings. I feel depressed there, or it's not the right vibe, and I say, listen, you know, I've been to, I don't know, 5,000 meetings. I've been to a lot of meetings, you know, and I've always found something that you could take that was, okay, this is why I came today. Here's the thing I came to hear today. Or even if I'm just listening to my own mind be judgmental and I catch myself, I'm like, oh, you're being judgmental. Oh, that was, you know, stop that. Stop, Tommy. Yeah. That was something I needed to learn today, you know. But there's always something there. And we have to be more allowing of people to have their humanity. Like, people are struggling. Just the fact that someone comes together in a room to try to be better, like I want to hang out with that person. You know, that's cool. So when people really struggle though with the 12 steps, with the program, with the fellowship and the people, I say, well, if you're not going to embrace that community, if you're absolutely unwilling to find, or you can't find the right group for you, look into a Kundalini Yoga class and get into that community. And I'm really constantly sending people, like, get into that community, because that's another community of people trying to be better and working with a very powerful set of tools. So thank you for that.
Oh, that's real, Tommy. It's real for all of us. In every situation we find ourselves in, we have to be able to look for, let the situation that we're not happy with be a reflection for something that we can learn about ourselves, as well as to build in ourselves the ability to see beyond the moment. You know, we always say, well, I was just having a moment. That's not who I really am, you know. Yes. Just give everyone the blessing of having their moment, and us being able to give them the space to do that and hold that.
Yes, thank you. Now, Krishna, just we're running out of time here, but I want to ask you about your experience of being an African American in the American yoga scene and the Kundalini Yoga scene for the last 50 years. And have you seen, you know, the opening that you've seen, the bigger community that's taking shape? I know that for me now, as I go around Solstice or some of the bigger events that we're at, I see a lot of African American people. I see a lot of international people. I see a lot of Latino people. I see people from all different walks, and I'm imagining that it probably wasn't that way in 1970. But I'd like to know what your thought is on that. And I know you do a lot of work to spread this yoga, you know, to people of color and to everyone, really. But I know that you have a particular mission, as you said at the beginning, because you're born into this body. Right. So if you could speak just a bit about that, because I know it'll be really important for our listeners to hear.
Well, it's interesting. Thank you for that question, Tommy. I think in the beginning, there were very few people of color in the organization, very few, and they were scattered around the country. And when I opened my ashram in South Central Los Angeles, Yogi Bhajan used to travel around and tell them all to come to LA and stay with me, because he wanted us to have a sense of our own ability to work together, but also to have the same language and the same style, understand each other's culture, basically, and find a way that they can become more deeply engrossed in what he was teaching. And that was really great, because we had a large ashram with all kinds of people from different cultures and so forth. But it was a place where Black people could come and feel really comfortable at home. I think that the teachings are universal. But he said to me one day, he said, because I was trying to get him to do something in the community in South Central LA, and he says, Krishna, it's too much mud. I can't go there yet. You have to dry up the mud so I can walk in there. And so that told me that there was a bridge to be made between how he saw life and how we were experiencing it, that he had no experience with. And that in order for him to be able to come in and be of service, someone had to go in and build that bridge for him. I think that it's been slow getting more, having more African Americans join this organization. I think a lot of it has to do with the fear that it with their religion as a Christian. Still a lot of that's around and very strong.
It's not a religion.
Of course, it's not a religion.
Yeah.
It's not a religion at all. It's like karate or tai chi. It's something you do to build yourself up. But it's that rumors around there, and somehow there's that miscommunication. Yes. But I think that right now it's opening up a lot, and I think people are finding a way to accept the universality of these teachings and see that it is something that will enhance them as a human. In Africa, for example, in Togo, there was a community there that had been doing Kundalini Yoga for almost 30 years. And it's amazing. They're a small little community. They have a small little yoga center, but they're dedicated and they work very hard. And I've been over there training them for years. And they're amazing teachers. Same thing in Ghana, in West Africa. So I think that the teachings are growing. And I think that more and more people are recognizing the value of them. And as long as we just keep going, pretty soon it'll be equal presence everywhere. As you can see in sources, we now have translators who translate in Japanese and in Chinese as well as in Spanish.
Yes.
So it's important, and I really think that this is really something for people all over the world. And I'm hoping and praying that more and more people of color will find their way there, and they are. They're filling up my classes over here in my little Monday night class, and I see them everywhere, and they recognize what we're doing, and they're grateful for it. And we just have to keep doing the work. I think all things are moving faster than they did 30 years ago in that direction.
Thank you so much, Krishna. I want people to know who are watching, how could they have the unbelievable blessing of attending a class or a workshop or getting to train with you on a deep level? How can people find you and benefit from what you're offering?
Well, thank you. They can check my website, which is krishnakaur.org.
That's for those who are listening. That's KRISHNAKAUR.
Also, we try to keep the social media going a little bit more, though it's very new to me and I don't watch it much myself, but I get reports. And I'll be inviting you to join me in different things. And I have a yoga class training for level 1 coming up in October. That's a 1 weekend a month for 10 consecutive months. And it's a really exciting and beautiful, cozy training, which we'd love to have you come and join and get the foundation of the teachings that Tommy is talking about, because they really will change your life a lot if you haven't already experienced that. And if those of you who already have some experience in yoga and want to share your life and your work with youngsters, children in schools and charter schools and detention facilities, we have a yoga for youth training also happening in August, the end of August, the first 2 weeks of August, weekends of August. And they would love to have you coming and sharing your light. And by working with them, it'll help you nurture yourself and help you to break through, because you'll see in them the you that you were, and you'll be able to give them a lot of your experiences that will lift them up. So those are 2 things that are happening right away. And we'd love to have you come and join us wherever you are. And yogaforyouth.org, yogaforyouth.org is where you'll find that information. And we have trainings for that all over all over the country. The schools are opening up to these teachings. They're opening up to mindfulness, they're opening up to restorative justice, they're opening up to yoga as a way to manage and behaviors of some of the kids, who are also very traumatized just by their life. So if you're open to that, check it out.
Well, Krishna, thank you so much for your bright, incredible spirit, your dedication all these years. Thank you for being a teacher of mine. And thank you for sharing your experience, your strength, and your hope with the Recovery 2.0 conference and community. So grateful. We love you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, Tommy. God bless all of you. Enjoy your life. You are great, just as you are. Sat Nam.
Sat Nam.